Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast, a space for heart-centered entrepreneurs to live in deep alignment with what matters most, overcome subconscious limitations, and shift their energy into an unstoppable force. Before we get started, take a deep breath, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to the Mind for Success podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Lebbing. And this morning I have a special guest. I can't wait for you to hear all that she does and her story and all of her gifts that she has to give to you today. Her name is Limor Bergman. Gross. She is a mentor for people who and offers them support in their careers. So she's got a passion for women and just an amazing background, which I'm going to let her tell you her story. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me.
You are quite welcome. So I love to start with, I love hearing everyone's backstory. Like, why do you do what you do? So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my career, I had over 20 years career in tech. So started my career as a software engineer and grew into leadership positions. The last role was the director of engineering. So I was in charge for about 45 people overall, with managers reporting to me. And I made a drastic change in my life and my career. So I'm married with 4 children on a personal note, and we moved from Israel, where I live today, to the US and back to Israel, within the last, I would say, 13 years. And I decided, when we returned to Israel, I decided to make a drastic change in my career and become a coach. And it was a process. It didn't happen overnight. It started, I think, when I started mentoring, just for, as a volunteering kind of side gig. Started mentoring managers in 2017, and I found that I really liked it. And I got positive feedback all the time. People were thanking me how much of an impact I made on their careers. And that, combined with the growing passion I had for women, as a manager, as a director, I wanted to hire more women. I wanted to help women grow. I noticed that women may have some challenges, not just me, but other women working in a male-dominant field. So I said, why not just do that? Why not just coach? So that's kind of the background to what I'm doing today.
I love it. And tell us a little bit about, I guess, who you help. Because I know you have a big passion for women. I know we've talked about that. You also help men, but tell us a little bit about the people you help, or maybe why they come to you.
Yeah, so typically, the typical client that come to me are in a technical role. They're not necessarily an individual contributor. They may be. A lot of times they are leaders. Can be a first line manager, second line manager, VP of some, it can be VP of engineering or marketing. It doesn't have to be like super, super technical, but in tech companies. And they come to me because of my background, because the value I bring them is not just as a coach, but also as a coach that worked in that industry for so many years. So our conversations are becoming much more impactful because I know what to ask. I understand when they're sharing something, I understand exactly what they're talking about. And kind of that's the unique value I bring to people in tech leadership, because I know the challenges they're going through.
Awesome. So, and I know you do some work with them on confidence and also building their brand, which I kind of want to touch on both, but just
Sure.
yeah. Let's go and talk about confidence and how you help people with that. That's kind of up my alley as well.
Yeah.
But you're working with different people, so I'll just say that, like, you're working with professionals, and I'm working more with entrepreneurs. And so
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about how you help them with confidence, imposter syndrome, and all those things that come up.
Yeah. I think if I had to distill that, I would say I help them open up their minds for possibilities.
Mm,
And and many times when I work with someone, they have a lot of limiting beliefs on what is possible. A lot of times tend to think that whatever is defined by their role is the only thing that they can do.
mm,
And 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 during the conversations, I'll help them. So building confidence is like, it's a process. It takes time. It's a combination of identifying skills, strength, looking back at achievements, getting some feedback. But it's also combined with looking at what impact can you make, because when you're able to make an impact and do something you haven't thought you could, it also builds your confidence.
mm,
And that's one of the things that I work with, opening up their minds to things that they can do within their their role and beyond what they thought that they can do. Maybe it's not like defined in the role, but they can make an impact which will help them grow their visibility, their brand, related also to branding, and help with improving their confidence.
mm. Yeah, those things are huge. And I'm guessing when you talked about what they don't know what is possible, talk about that. Like, give us some examples of what you've seen with people in the workplace. Because I mean, I see that too, but I'm imagining it just looks a little bit different in the workplace.
Yeah, so if someone is managing an organization, and so I have an example, as someone who is managing a product organization, and the way that they work in their company with what product is doing and what other departments are doing is not really the right way of doing it. Let's put it that way. It's not industry standard. It's not effective. It's causing a lot of burnout and frustration
Mm,
within the
mm,
product organization. And this person, like, they think that, oh, if I want to make an impact, I have to ask for permission. I have to get the managers above me to do something. And we had a conversation about, okay, why do you need them? Why can't you just start exercising influence and starting slowly and in small steps, finding allies and making a change?
mm,
And when we started talking about it, this person realized that actually they can make an impact. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but they don't have to rely on the leadership team just because they have like the so-called authority or that's their role. They don't have to rely on them to do that.
mm. I love it. I love it. So, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that they put them. I know this. People get in these little boxes. You know what I'm talking about? The little boxes they put themselves in, and they can't really see beyond that.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because of the corporate culture and how we are raised. I mean, it's not just those people's fault. It's how we are raised to believe that we have a roles and responsibilities, and we need to really work within those, right? There's a corporate ladder, there is structure, and a lot of times we are afraid. We either don't think that we can do something that is beyond our role, or we are afraid or we step on someone's toes or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah, I can see that. So let's talk a little bit about personal branding And maybe even, I know you mentioned you help people with LinkedIn, and have some strategies about that. So I guess I'll start with personal branding. Um, how do you do that? Or what are the best strategies to do that? Or if you have some tips for us.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, I mean, there are different aspects to branding. So there are aspects of branding within the organization you work at and branding externally.
Okay, so
You
tell
know,
me about that, because I don't know what you mean by branding within the organization that you
so
work.
within the organization, if you work inside an organization and you want to grow, at some level, at some point, you cannot grow without other people knowing who you are and recognizing you. So I'll give you an example. When I was managing an engineering organization, people under me, after they reach a certain level, I couldn't promote them unless they were recognized by other stakeholders. They knew who they are, they knew what they were doing, they knew their capabilities. I had several challenges with people who were super introverted and really shy that I had to fight for promoting them because people didn't know them enough. So branding within the organization is super important. If you want people to know who you are, to recognize you, to know your capabilities, and open up possibilities for you, because they will know who you are, they'll know what you're good at, and maybe it's not just about being promoted laterally, right? Just moving up the ladder, but maybe even sideways, maybe other opportunities. So you have to start building the networks, identifying key stakeholders, building collaborations, and making an impact. The best way to brand yourself is making an impact above and beyond what people expect you to do.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I think that I think sometimes that work mindset people get stuck in, I'm just going to do this job
Yeah.
and just what they outlined for me, and I'm not going to do anything else. But ultimately, you're right. If they want something more, then they really have to be something more.
Yes. And, I had a lot of challenges when I was a manager that some people were saying, oh, I want to be promoted. And they assumed that the fact that they worked for a certain amount of time, like tenure, was enough for someone to get promoted. Well, it's not enough. It's not enough. You have to show your capabilities. You have to make an impact beyond your role. So you will appreciate it as someone who has capabilities to do something at the next level.
I love it. I love it. That's so valuable. Thank you. So let's go into a little bit about, I guess, why people would want to build their brand on LinkedIn. And then if you have any kind of tips to do that, we'd love to hear them.
Sure. So first of all, we are in days that there is no stability. There's no such thing as stable job and that you work at the same place until retirement. It may have been in my parents' generation. I mean, both my parents worked for one employer their entire career and retired. So maybe a generation, people that are now retired, maybe some of them worked at one employer and they never needed to have even a resume. It's not the case anymore. So you need to be ready. You need to always be known and ready. When I worked, during my career as an employee, I noticed a trend, and I'm not saying it's in all industry, but in the tech industry for sure, especially in the, millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, people kind of switch jobs around every 2 to 3 years. That's kind of the average that I've seen. And if that's the case, then they need to be ready for the next employer and they need to be known. And when I was working on my brand on LinkedIn, I got opportunities. I didn't have to look for a job at all, which was wonderful because I got opportunities I never thought about.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. When DigitalOcean approached me at the end of 2015, and they said, hey, we want to consider you to manage a team. And I noticed that they are in New York. I said, well, I'm not moving to New York. I live in Colorado. And I mentioned, well, you don't need to move anywhere. You can work fully remote. I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I want that. That at that time, working fully remote, especially managing a team, was not really, not very common. So having a strong brand will allow you to get different opportunities.
Right.
Or if you choose to pursue opportunities, will make you more attractive to potential employers. Or if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, you need to brand yourself all the time to attract clients. And on LinkedIn, there are certain levels. The first level, I would say, be there, be visible, and make sure your profile accurately represent who you are, what do you do, what problems do you solve. And a lot of times people tend to think about, okay, I am that kind of title. And they write a laundry list of all the things that title include. That's the wrong way of looking at this. They have to think about, what skills do I have? What problems do I solve? What are my unique capabilities? And highlighting those on their profile. Also thinking strategically, what kind of roles do I want to be considered for, and thinking how to present themselves so a potential recruiter or employer or what have you land on their profile and spend few seconds, because they don't spend more than few seconds usually, what they will know. So having a good profile picture, background picture, is really important. And I think now most people utilize it, but several years ago it was not the case.
Right.
Because people are very visual, right? When you see something visual, it really helps. And having a good headline. LinkedIn extended the headline from, I think it was 2 years ago, they extended it from 120 characters to, I think, double, or 250. I don't remember the exact number of characters. And you can utilize all of them to tell the world who you are. And also, to include any relevant keywords.
Right.
And your about section is the next one. So just think about those areas of your profile. If it's good, it's the first step, but it's not enough. If you want people to notice you, you need to be there. It's like any other social media, right? If you have a profile that is not active, you're less likely to be noticed. So you need to be active. Active also has different levels. You can just comment, on other or share other people's content, or you can write your own. And there are so many ways to do that, which is wonderful because it allows people to express themselves in the way they feel more comfortable. Some people like videos. Some people like writing. You can also do audio. So it's really how you prefer.
So many different ways.
Yeah. But really being active is a key factor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know, I learned years ago that your LinkedIn, I had a business coach years ago tell me that it was it's real estate. It's it's like real estate. You use every single word, every character that they give you, use every single one, and really, promote yourself in a way. And being active and communicating with people is huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, and I believe personally that the best way to attract clients, if you're a business owner, is to show them that you're capable of solving their problems and let them get to know you. The more you put stuff, the more they'll get to know you, instead of being opportunistic and reaching out to people and start selling them. The reason I say that, because there is nothing I hate more than people reaching out to me and immediately starting to sell their services to me.
Yeah. Amen to that.
There's nothing that turns me
Yes.
down more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I know probably everybody listening here agrees too. It's a huge turnoff. And most of the time I don't end up connecting with those people. I just delete.
Yeah, and especially in our business, right, in coaching, it's so much about communication, about building connections. So
Right.
I want people to know me. I want people to know who I am. I want people to read content that I'm sharing, to read episodes, to listen to episodes of my podcast, to get to know me and realize if I'm the right person they want to work with.
Right. Right. Totally. I totally agree. So I have another question for you, just because I was looking over some of the things you share, and I'm guessing you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, and this was for the listeners, this was listed on our profile. And I wanted to see, just like, tell us a little bit about how you network. How is networking different as an introvert?
Yeah. So it was always very intimidating for me, especially when I worked in the tech industry, to go to different events, industry events, and being overwhelmed with thousands of people that I don't know and start talking with them. Actually, COVID brought a blessing in some way, because I found other ways to network online, which are less intimidating. So, for example, I started utilizing a tool called Lunch Club. It's an online tool that you can sign up to. I can send you a link, and it connects you with people based on your interest, one-on-one. Just one-on-one, you meet people. You define how frequently you want to meet people. It's like 45-minute casual conversation. Maybe something will come out of it, maybe not, but you meet people, which I found very helpful. They started in COVID doing that. At least I knew them in 2020, and I really liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I want that link, and maybe we can put it in the show notes as well.
Yes,
because I'm
for
sure
sure.
I'm not the only one.
I will share it. I will share it, definitely. And I think that also, attending different virtual events, like Power to Fly, the company that I used to consult to, they have events like every month or so. They do like summits, and during those summits they have networking events, and those are virtual. For me, I found it, I don't know, for some reason, virtually, I found it less intimidating to get to know people. So you can interact not just with Power to Fly, but other communities based on your interest, your location, and do it virtually first. But still, there's nothing like face-to-face. There's nothing like face-to-face. And I force myself to do it. Force myself to do it. I was at an event in Boston it was in May. It was a big event. And I just told myself, yes, this week I'm going to be at an event. Yes, I will have to just feel uncomfortable a little bit.
Right.
And like everything else in life, right? The more you do it, the more you feel, I wouldn't say I feel comfortable, but I feel more comfortable than I used to.
I love it. I think, I personally, anytime I've taken those tests, I float between introvert and extrovert. I feel like after COVID, I tend to be more on the introvert side, but most people don't guess me that way when I go out and network. And one of the things that I've learned is to make sure that I give myself some time to just debrief and be by myself after. and not to overschedule after whatever networking event is so that I can kind of refuel myself. That's important for me.
I'm definitely would say I'm more on the introverted side, and if you some of you that are listening wonder where you are at, because there's no black and white. When I was traveling, even from work, I was traveling a lot. And that week of travel, I felt sometimes suffocated because I was all the time, I had to be in meetings and talk with different people and go for dinners and lunches and all that. And at the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, I have to have my space. I have to just go to the room, close the door, and just be with myself. It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are exactly the opposite. They just want to be around people all the time. So that's another indication.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that if you really enjoy or you get energized by refueling and being by yourself, that's a big key, versus being around all the people. So that's so helpful. So tell us a little bit about, I know you mentioned you have a podcast, so I'd love to, tune people into that one. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, it's fairly new. I was procrastinating about it for over a year, I wanted to create this podcast because I wanted to bring the voices of different women in tech leadership so they can serve as a role model for other women and also to share their experiences and tips. So I started a podcast called From a Woman to a Leader. And I feature women in different roles in tech, also women in other, sometimes they're not in tech, but they bring different perspectives like public speaking, confidence building, and so forth. And so far I published 10 episodes. I do it kind of slowly as I have
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and I welcome everyone to listen.
Yeah. So I want to encourage everybody to go over that and check out her podcast, From a Woman to a Leader.
Yeah,
right?
From a Woman to a Leader. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then I know that you have somewhere that you want to, like, how do people find you? What's the best place for people to go and find and look for you?
As we talked previously, I have a website, limorbergman.com, but I typically tell people go to LinkedIn.
Okay.
Find me on LinkedIn, follow me, see what I have to say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you can see she practices what she preaches on this episode.
Yeah.
So this has been so valuable with, the LinkedIn tips and just how to get promoted within an organization. I mean, we just had so much value, so many tips. So I just want to thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to talk to you. And then listeners, go to her LinkedIn, connect with her. Check out the resources we mentioned, and rate this podcast. Go in if you enjoyed this, go rate this podcast. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening today. I want to invite you to download my free guide at resources.kimberlylebbing.com/unlock. It's called Unlocking Your Authentic Self: 5 Key Steps to Identify and Overcome Hidden Limitations in Your Life and Business and Realize Your Highest Potential. Thank you again for listening today.